Hello and welcome to Competitive Crunch. My name is Spade and today we're gonna look at the official Smogon University simulator statistics of the past month, November. And this time we have had a full month to use all sorts of new Pokemon. Because during October, Smogon just created their tiers and their initial tiers and ban lists and everything. And during October, the tiers were active for only about a week. But now we have had a full month to experiment with everything new that Generation 6 has brought us. Or not everything, because Pokemon Bank. But then again, it's a separate tier where you can still experiment with that. But today I'm going to be talking about the Generation 6 OU tier, regular OU, because, you know, that's more relevant when compared to Wi-Fi, what we got going on right now at the actual games, because you know it's a simulator, but then again the Pokemon Bank will simulate the situation that we got going on at the end of this month. But on that note, let's go back to the actual business of Generation 6 OU. But on that note, something that you definitely gonna take into account, like it says right here again, everything is still in flux. So a lot of people are just experimenting right now, using what they feel like, and using a lot of Pokemon for the sake of using them, for just to try them out for the first time. So instead of using what's best for the metagame, hashtag best for the metagame, people are just using lots of Pokemon just for the sake of using them. So when it comes to creating tiers, you know, these statistics are not really that relevant. But you know, that's how it goes when you start creating tiers from scratch. But regardless of that, it is extremely fascinating to see what people were using during the first month, the first full month the tiers were active. So let's take a look at what we got going on. So guess what Pokemon was the #1 used Pokemon? Guess. Think about it for a moment. And here we go. And it is Talonflame at #1 spot. Let me just scroll up here. Yeah, looking good. So this time Talonflame is #1, so it has basically swapped places with Aegislash. But now that we had a full month, on the Showdown there were over 1.9 million battles. Now of course it doesn't say how many unique users there were, but still I'm sure there were a bunch, because there were almost 2 million battles had during last month, during November. And yeah, starting #1, Talonflame. And it's still keeping up with the hype. It has the most powerful priority in the entire metagame, with the priority Gale Wings, Brave Bird, everything. And it is really good. And that's why people are using it. And I guess with the the new defogers, it's not that bad to be using Talonflame. And also, you know, you still have all the reliable rabbit spinners around, like Excadrill. I think Excadrill is one of the best partners for Talonflame, because first off, it can destroy all the rock types that Talonflame really cannot get passed by, and second off, it can go for the rabbit spin, and third, it can kind of destroy most of the spin blockers with like Swords Dance, except for the new grass ghost types. But then again, Talonflame can help with those because its dual stab is super effective against them. So it's like a mutual relationship. They both kind of gain from each other. But still, it is kind of easy to support Talonflame to get past its weakness. Main weakness, which is Stealth Rock. Another issue has been that, you know, it's not that powerful, it has that limited coverage, but, you know, again, Excadrill, a great partner for it. But still, it is easy enough to support Talonflame, and still the most powerful priority in the entire game is extremely tempting. That's why people are using it a lot, and this month it was, on the full month, it was actually able to reach the #1 spot over Aegislash, which after the first week kind of became super predictable Pokemon, but then again, so is Talonflame. But Aegislash has already kind of transformed, and the main way to really go with it is by using a mixed Aegislash, which is kind of a problem because the Swords Dancing set is just so tempting, but it's kind of so easy to get passed by with all sorts of bulky ground types around, so people kind of had to go mixed and then lose the sweeping potential when they want to go mixed. But on that note, Aegislash kind of becomes this wall breaker that is kind of hard to get past by, so it's a really good Pokemon. Everybody thinks it's physical, then you can go mixed and just do a bunch of damage, because it still does have that 150 special attack as well. It's definitely more than usable stat, and coupled with like Shadow Ball and maybe a Hidden Power Ice, you know, that's a really good way to go with Aegislash. You mainly see it with only one special attack, being Shadow Ball, because it's stab, and you know, it got buffed in this gen against steel types, so it's a really good way to go. But Aegislash still extremely versatile on that, or not versatile is not a really the word I'm looking for, but it's still what I'm trying to get past that here is that it has a way to go past its most common counters by going mixed, which makes it a dangerous wall breaker and can definitely be a great team player for your team. But anyways, I should move on. I've talked about enough about Aegislash in the past. So we got Greninja again. Again, fast. It was, yeah, fast special sweeper, has some nice support options, and that Protean ability, something really unique. But stab everything is just, again, really awesome on it, and it's just so fast. Is it 122? So it would be one base speed faster than Tornadus Therian at 121. That's going to be something that definitely need to watch out for. And I have already on Pokebank OU when I've been using Tornadus to rock everything like a hurricane, except for Greninja. But stab everything is awesome. And fast special sweeper with stab everything, that's the reason why it's so highly used. And then we got ever so useful Rotom-Wash. You can just basically slap it on every team and it will just work. It's just overall such a great Pokemon. It has the wall switch to gain momentum. You can go defensive, you can go offensive, you can trick things with the Scarf, and you know, you can be a fast Scarfer, you can be a bulky water supporter with Will-O-Wisp and Pain Split. Although Pain Split hasn't really seen too much, or in general, I think the offensive Rotoms are seen a lot more often. I don't know. But then again, there are those Resto Chesto things running around, so I'm not sure what I have no idea what I'm saying, but you know, it has those options. It is so versatile, can go defensive, can go offensive, great momentum for really any team, great typing, bulky water with Levitate, and basically has one weakness, and that is to grass, which is not that common of a offensive type anyway. So just like in Gen 5, a really great Pokemon, and again, you can just throw it on any team, basically. And then we have Gengar, and you know, Mega Gengar just got banned, so people were still using Mega Gengar a lot, and that's one of the main attractions for Gengar. But I'm sure even now, after Mega Gengar getting banned by Smogon, it will certainly still be used, and most likely you will see more of a sub-disable shenanigans, and most likely just more sub-3 attacks. I think that's going to be a really good way to utilize the regular Gengar. But we haven't, at this point, we haven't seen the full potential of regular Gengar, because most of the people have been just using Mega Gengar, which was a really broken supporter, which still many people didn't understand, and they went on outrage. Like on the previous episode that I was doing, a lot of people were questioning why Smogon banned it, and I guess it is still kind of difficult to see the support that it can bring your team by basically being able to trap everything and being able to revenge kill just most of the things that it wants and just destroying stall completely. When you're up against some wall that doesn't have the highest stack, and if it doesn't have EQ, you're free to trap it with like Peristrapping. Then again, it's not relevant in this metagame because there's no Peristrapping in this metagame. But after this month, we will have access to Peristrapping Gengar, which was just... Then again, it was only one of the reasons why it got banned. But that was one of the best supporting sets you could run on the Pokemon Bank OU tier. But still, basically being able to trap everything was the biggest issue, and that's why a lot of people are using it. It's just such a great team player. It can trap and remove counters for your other Pokemon, allowing them a clean and easy sweep without much effort put into it. That's the reason why it got banned. That's the reason why a lot of people are using it. But gotta say, again, interesting to see how things are going to be working out for Gengar. But still definitely a great Pokemon in this generation. With the Fairy types around, it can be running that Sludge Bomb as coverage move, and with the Steel type nerf, it has easier time getting past all the Steel types that it couldn't get past in the past. Huh, that made sense. We move on. Then we got the ever so useful Ferrothorn, setting up all those entry hazards, lead seed shenanigans, still a bunch of resistances, even with the Steel nerf, which is unfortunate, but it's still a damn bulky Pokemon that's extremely difficult to kill, and it can bring great support for any team, and it can just switch into so many different types. It still has like, it had 11 resistances, now it has 10, with the Fairy resistance minus the Ghost and Dark resistance, but still 10 different resistances is great to have. Out of the 18 types, it does resist 10 of them, so that's definitely great. And with the support it can bring your team, that's the reason why it's used. Then we got Excadrill, kind of talked about it a bit already, but you know, it's a great supporter for Talonflame, first of all. Or not first of all, it's overall, I guess, the I'd say the best Rapid Spinner in the game. And when we talk about the regular OU tier, you know, there's not much other well, basically there's not so many defogers around yet, but because you have to wait for the Pokemon Bank OU to get the full potential. So having Excadrill to spin is definitely great. And even with the Sand nerf, you know, it's a really effective wall breaker, if anything. And because of this, because of the Sand nerf, it is mostly seen with the wall breaker ability these days. And because Rotom-Wash is so common, you definitely want to be using Mold Breaker, because otherwise Rotom-Wash is kind of a hard counter to Excadrill. But with the Mold Breaker, it can easily get past Rotom-Wash, and it can kind of just beat most of the spin blockers after Swords Dance and just, you know, destroy them. Like Aegislash, if it tries to spin block, think again against the ground type like Excadrill. Although it needs to watch out for this new Steel type mechanics. There was one time at the beginning when I kind of forgot. I was like, oh, I'll just resist the Shadow Sneak. Oh wait, I don't. That sucked. That's a different story for another time. And we move on. Got Kangaskhan. Arguably the most broken Pokemon in the metagame right now, as Mega Gengar is removed. Even more broken than, you know, how would you compare the brokenness of two Pokemon? You know, that's the thing. Mega Gengar was mostly banned for its support capabilities, what it could do for your team. It was really, especially for casual fans, extremely difficult to see its full potential, because casual fans only think Mega Gengar as a sweeper. They don't think what it can do for your team. But then we got Mega Kangaskhan, which is kind of the exact opposite. And even for casual fans, I think it is more easier to understand why Mega Kangaskhan should get banned as opposed to Mega Gengar. Because Mega Kangaskhan, well, in a way, is a team player because he kind of just gives you the victory on his own. It just kind of destroys everything on its own. But that's the difference. Mega Gengar is there to support your team, but then Mega Kangaskhan is there to destroy everything with its own weight and its power. And that's why it's easier to see why Mega Kangaskhan should get banned, because it's usually just sweeping your team. And this Mega Kangaskhan is probably the Pokemon that has swept me the most, and when I've been using it, I've had easy sweeps with it. And it's just the combination of its great coverage moves and power-up punch. and it's great bulk. And the normal typing is actually defensively good too, because you have only one weakness to fighting, although fighting is a really common type to have, especially with all the Pokemon with close combat running around, especially after we get access to Pokemon Bank and we get all the old good fighting types like Terrakion back in the field. So that's going to be one problem for Kangaskhan, I guess, but it's really hard to counter Mega Kangaskhan. Although in this metagame it doesn't have access to a bunch of move tutors moves, like mainly Ice Punch and Fire Punch, elemental punches in general. So Ferrothorn, definitely another reason why to use Ferrothorn in this metagame is to try and wall Mega Kangaskhan. Although after Power Up Punch and EQ, it will. I think it can still live. I think I just had a showdown match where I was Power Up Punching against a Ferrothorn, and even after Power Up Punch, I wasn't able to knock it out with the Earthquake, followed up by the +2 freaking Kangaskhan. But yeah, once it has access to Fire Punch, it can kind of go past Ferrothorn with ease, and Skarmory too, which are kind of the main ways to really deal with Kangaskhan. And also there's, I guess, Sableye. Sableye, Skarmory, and Ferrothorn are really your best bets against it, but even those things are not really reliable, especially after Pokemon Bank with the Fire Punch. I guess the only reasonable counter then would be Sableye, but most certainly this Pokemon will get banned. It just destroys absolutely everything. There's not a physical wall around that could wall it, like, besides maybe that Sableye, which is generally just not that good. And especially in this metagame, its main niche was the fact that it had no weaknesses, and in this metagame it's weak to Fairy, so that right there is one reason why Sableye is not that good. Although, again, there's restricted amount of Fairy type Pokemon, but then again, that's another story for a whole different time. But then again, if for Mega Kangaskhan, last point being, if the best way to deal with it is with Sableye, it's definitely more than broken. And I think everybody can understand why Mega Kangaskhan should get banned. It's the destroyer of worlds. The parental bond, oh man. 2 hits in a turn, Power Up Punch, yeah. Do I need to say it more? No. We move on. We got Tyranitar. Even with the Weather nerf, it's still high up there, even though, like, I guess the weather nerf, it definitely has taken its toll on Tyranitar too, because I think it was, for the longest time in the Gen 5 metagame, it was in the top 5 most of the time, coupled with Politoed, which is nowhere to be seen right now, which is kind of funny, but, the weather nerf is obvious. But still, Tyranitar, great supporter for your team with Stealth Rocks, and can still pull off its crunching and stone edging and fire blasting. It has all these great coverage moves and high offensive stats and great bulk, and in the sand you got the special defense boost still. So overall, still a great Pokemon, and I guess there's still some attraction, I guess, with the Excadrill coming back to the OU tier, with Tyranitar supporting it with sand, even though Mold Breaker is still kind of your main ability with Excadrill. But still, Tyranitar, a great Pokemon. And I think we could move on. Got Gliscor here, and solid defensive wall, which unfortunately still gets destroyed by a +2 return. So that's a problem for it. But still, outside of Mega Kangaskhan, which Gliscor absolutely cannot wall, it's still a solid, sturdy physical wall, and has all those annoying shenanigans with sub-toxic protect and all that good stuff. And I guess it could set up Stealth Rocks, although I don't think it can in this metagame. Yeah, because there's no move tutors again, so it can't. Never mind that, but still overall a sturdy, solid physical wall with the Poison Heal that really sets it apart from all sorts of other Pokemon. There are not too many good Pokemon with Poison Heal around. Besides this thing and Breloom, I guess. But Breloom is seen more with Technician these days, so that's also a thing. When it comes to defensive, poison healing Pokemon, Status Absorber too, Gliscor could be your choice. If you're looking for a physical wall, with all these other attributes. Then we got Garchomp. Oh yes, good old Garchomp with its really colorful history, getting banned in Generation 4, getting banned in Generation 5, then brought back in Generation 5 after the ban of the Sandvale ability. And now it's back in Generation 6, and it has the Mega Evolution now, which is definitely gaining some attraction. Although still regular Garchomp is a great Pokemon, and you mainly, I guess, want to just use it as a Scarfer, although still the SD set works coupled with the higher speed that the Mega Garchomp has. So it's really, it's kind of a hard choice when you use, do you want to use Mega Garchomp or just the regular Garchomp, because Mega Garchomp is slower and can't be outspeeding those things that a regular Garchomp could. And on the regular one you can run Scarf on it and it still has that great coverage of moves. But now it kind of does get walled by Togekiss to some extent. That's why people are running Stone Edge on it. But if you are looking for a wall breaker, definitely Mega Garchomp could be your choice. But still both Garchomps have their uses, which is really cool. So yeah, of course Garchomp is going to be high on the tiers. Then we got the Azumarill, and yeah, Belly Jet is cool, and the new Fairy typing being one of the better Fairy types of the entire metagame, and the Water Fairy typing is actually really good defensively too, and Azumarill having the great natural bulk, it's even better at what it did in the past, because it can now to an extent make better use of its good natural bulk with the new Fairy typing. It can switch on hits and it can resist fighting and dark now. That's cool, and bug too. So it can do better what it's supposed to do, take hits and dish out damage. And now with the bunch of new resistances, it can do that even better. And with the new additional Fairy coverage that it has, I think it has better coverage than it did in Generation 5. Like it doesn't need to run like Ice Punch for the dragons, and you know, those things that get walled, but or what I'm trying to say, those things that get walled by its Fairy type coverage can be handled with water and the fighting coverage in form of Waterfall and Superpower. I guess there are still a few things that do kind of wall it, but it's still overall a great Pokemon that is really difficult to switch into, especially with Choice Band. It hits like a truck right off the bat. Even Skarmory has trouble with it, you know, trying to take a Waterfall, being physically defensive and everything. But yeah, great Pokemon. Then we got Scizor, ever so useful. U-turning, also gained the Mega Evolution, so that's cool. I should probably go like these things faster, because I talked about a lot of these in the previous episode too, what they can do in general. So I'll try to go faster through this list and just see what's up in the metagame at the moment. But yeah, Scizor, U-turning, shenanigans, Mega Evolution, the usual stuff. Steel being slightly more useful, offensive typing now too, with the fairies being weak to it and everything. And Bullet Punch, all the things, and U-turn on the rest. Then we got good old Goodra on the spot 14. I don't know how high it was last month, but then again, it's not really relevant. Or even these stats are not relevant because of the things that I mentioned. But it's still interesting. That's why I'm going through them. Stop rambling. Move on. And Goodra, yes. A interesting special tank that can dish out damage. It can have some physical moves and it has great special move pool, but it also has some useful physical moves like Outrage and EQ. I guess when Pokemon Bank gets out, EQ might see some use, because otherwise it kind of gets walled by Heatran. But yeah, as opposed to most of the walls that rely on some residual damage and maybe having like one stab move to actually do something, to not be a complete setup bait, Goodra is kind of the exact opposite, as it doesn't really get any really good support moves, And as opposed to supporting your team with those support moves, it's designed to kind of just take hits, mainly take special hits, and then dish out heavy damage with great coverage moves, and which makes it's really difficult for any Pokemon to really switch into Goodra. You got Ice Beam, you got Draco Meteor, Dragon Pulse, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Fire Blast, Sludge Bomb even, and Earthquake if you want to go physical, and in the future deal with like Heatran, maybe some, I don't know, rock types. Perhaps, but it has all sorts of great coverage moves, and that is what makes Goodra a great Pokemon. Still, it's kind of a shame that it doesn't get good support moves, but it's kind of designed differently than most of the walls. And at the beginning, I didn't really like Goodra too much, but I've kind of grown to like it more and more because it's something different than most of the walls, really. Then we got good old multi-scale Dragonite. Ever so useful, and I'm sure it will rise up in the usage in the future, because usually it's been like on the top 5 too, pretty much because of the multi-scale. But then again, you know, people are just again using a bunch of different things now. But I don't know. I guess with the well, of course, the Dragonite 2 has felt its presence feared by the new fairy types that can kind of deal with it, but still. Good old multi-scale Dragonite, much has not really changed, to be honest, besides the fairy weakness. Like, I guess, well, Dragonite is one of the best users of the multi-scale, coupled with the new item weakness policy. That's one of the main attractions why you want to be using Dragonite right now to abuse that new awesome item weakness policy. One time use, but if you can pull it off, it can be certainly worth your time, and especially with Dragonite and multi-scale, yeah, again, one of the best users of it. And then we move on. Trevenant, that's definitely a great spin blocker, and especially with Excadrill, one of the top spinners around, Trevenant can be your main way to really stop it, because it does resist EQ, doesn't really care too much about whatchamacallit, Rock Slide, and the only way to deal with it is really with Shadow Claw, and Excadrill doesn't necessarily want to be running Shadow Claw because it's not really great coverage outside of like the one Trevenant that tries to wall you. Usually you just want to go with like Sword Stance to do wall breaking in general, and then go with Rock Slide and EQ, and then Rapid Spin to support your move. But I guess you don't necessarily need to be running Sword Dance on Excadrill, but then again, a not boosted Shadow Claw still doesn't do that much to a Trevenant, and Trevenant can just still burn Excadrill, so that's a great thing. But really unique Pokemon with the Cursing set that became the #1 set ever since people got noticed from, or people rather noticed what Trevenant could do. But it still has the you know, the Harvest Citrus Berry Curse and Sub and Lead Seed. That's what I'm talking about. That's a really awesome set. But then of course it can be using its other ability, which is Natural Cure, another really useful ability, because now with all the Harvest Citrus Berry shenanigans running around, you can just run basically Natural Cure on it, and then you can also abuse Rest with it, and then just switch out. Overall, I think it's at least for the moment, it's a great spin blocker, but who knows what's going to happen to Trevenant once defocus get around. But anyways, then we got Klefki, still useful support, T-Babe, Spikes, all those sort of shenanigans, and Fairy Steel typing, one of the best defensive type combinations at the moment. It's basically, like I've said in the past, it's the new Steel Psychic combination, being only weak to ground and fire, so definitely a great asset for Klefki, coupled with the Prankster and all those awesome moves. And then we got Charizard. It has 2 Mega Evolutions, that's why it's used. Then we got Espeon. I'm sure this thing has risen a bit, but Magic Bounce, it's still, I don't know. We do have a Mega Absol being another Magic Bouncer now, a new one. But still, when it comes to support and Magic Bounce, Espeon is really your best bet. And it can be setting up those light screens and everything. But who knows how popular light screening Espeon will be once we have access to more defogers. Because defog, besides getting rid of hazards, defog gets rid of light screens and reflects. So that's definitely a problem for Espeon if it's trying to support your team. But yeah, I guess with the weather nerf, its recovery Morning Sun will be slightly more useful, so that's a thing too. But anyways, then we got good old Dragon Check Mamoswine here, and it's still doing its job as a Dragon Check, and really popular focus stat lead, usually guaranteed to set up hazards. And Mamoswine is honestly a really difficult Pokemon to counter, because your best bets really are like Skarmory, and then another steel type would be Bronzong, although that's not even common and not... Can you even get Bronzong in this metagame? I don't think so. But you can get Skarmory, and then you can get Rotom, which is another, I guess, a decent counter or check to it at least, because I guess Rotom would only fear really like Superpower, and if it's like Banded, definitely not the best way to deal with it. But Mamoswine really, just in general, a really difficult Pokemon to switch into. They call it the Dragon Check. Mamoswine cannot switch into Dragon types, not at all, but it can check them. But at the same time, most of the metagame, not half, most of the metagame cannot switch into the awesome combination of ground and ice. When you got Earthquake and Icicle Spear, and Icicle Crash and Ice Shard. Ice Shard is mostly checking, but it's the Icicle Crash and Earthquake combination that is really difficult to switch into. And also Superpower. Although, does it get Superpower now? Does it learn it by Egg move? I think it's a tutor move. But still, it's going to have that in the future, so that's an extra coverage move for certain. But still, the ground-ice combination really difficult to switch into. And that's why Mamoswine is used. It can support your team, and it's really difficult to switch into, and also Dragon Check. So there we go. Then we got Alakazam. Also gained a Mega Evolution, and still ever so useful with the Magic Guard ability, Focus Sash, Life Orb on its own. But yeah, you can still use definitely the Mega Evolution, which I think is the main attraction why Alakazam is used at the moment. Then we got Lucario. Of course, it also gained the Mega Evolution, and it was a big thing for Lucario, because Lucario kind of had a problem with speed, but then Mega Lucario kind of patches up that weakness. And with the adaptability, its stab moves are more powerful than Life Orb Lucario's. Although if you think about something like Ice Punch, it is still weaker than regular Life Orb Lucario's. But then again, stab close combat just destroys everything, and then adaptability Bullet Punch is definitely great, and Steel type being slightly more useful. Offensive typing in this gen, yeah, that's the thing. Then we got Smeargle. So that's the first Sticky Web user here, and still Smeargle, definitely one of the best Sticky Web users, because besides Sticky Web, it can be setting off Stealth Rocks, and it can just gain the momentum by first putting up something to sleep, and then setting up rocks and or Sticky Web, depending on the situation. But yeah, Sticky Web being the new entry hazards, of course gaining some attention, because entry hazards are known to be kind of broken in the past, especially Stealth Rock. Now that we got this speed lowering entry hazard, you definitely want to be using, and Smeargle being arguably the best user of it, coupled with the other utility moves that it can use. That's why it's being used a lot in this generation, at least at the beginning of the metagame right now. Then we got good old Volcarona, ever so useful like it was in the past, and I guess with the defocers around, it's slightly more useful than it was in the past, and it's definitely easier to support Volcarona than it was in the past. But then again, in this metagame right now, we don't have too many defocers, but certainly in the future we will. But the best user of the Butterfly Dance move, or the Quiver Dance, yes. I'm still going at the old random Japanese name of it, which I'm not sure why. But yeah, Volcarona, same as ever. and you do now have the defog support option, which is great for it. And then we got Cloyster, Shell Smashing Shenanigans, and yeah, that's about it. Then we got Noivern, a new fast dragon type, gaining a lot of attention, and yeah, it's kind of like I said, I think last time, it's kind of this reverse Hydreigon, when you got higher speed, but then lower special attack. But it kind of lives in its own unique speed tier, which is a great asset for it. And especially with Life Orb and Specs, it can still be hitting really hard and dropping those Draco Meteors, coupled with its great coverage with like Flamethrower and Hurricane too. So yeah, definitely it has definitely some merits that Hydreigon doesn't have, being a part Flying type and Stab Hurricane. That's definitely a great asset too. But yeah, fast dragon type. Dragons are awesome. Then we got Skarmory down here. A great supporter. Doesn't have defog at the moment. Not sure how well that's going to mash up with Skarmory's usual job of setting up spikes. But sturdy physical wall. Quite literally sturdy, I may add. But yeah, still does what Skarmory does. Solid physical wall. Do I need to say no more? Nope. Then we got Gyarados. Setting up Dragonances, now has the Mega Evolution, which is gaining the main attraction, I think. Yeah, certainly. Then we got Breloom. Kinda got nerfed in this generation. Otherwise it probably would be a lot higher. But coupled with the new sleep mechanics, and also the fact that low sweep got nerfed, or well, it got buffed up to 65, so it's just out of the Technician range, which really sucks for Technician Breloom. Because low sweep is a move that you really don't see around on any Pokemon. In fact, like the only common Pokemon that use it are Breloom and Technician Hitmontop. And then it got buffed up to 65, so no longer these two can really use it, which really sucks for it. Although Breloom did gain something, and that is boosted Rock Tomb, because it's like 60 base power, so it can make the most potential out of Technician, and it's great coverage for Breloom, and I guess, that's now a way for Breloom to lower the opponent's speed. But still, the fact that, the stab low sweep was still great, and mainly the new sleep mechanics. Those are definitely a problem for it, because they're back to Generation 4, so... And also the grass types, of course. So the grass types that used to wall Breloom but were still kind of in trouble with the fact that they were being able to put to sleep. Now Breloom cannot do that. So now Venusaur walls Breloom better than it did in the past. So yeah, that's definitely an issue. The grass types, they wall Breloom harder than they did in the past. Then we got Togekiss. Now that's partially fairy type now, so that's what's gaining a lot of attraction for it, and it's kind of a hard counter to Garchomp now without Stone Edge. So it's not a counter at all, haha, but definitely a solid check for it. But the fairy typing is definitely enough to gain Togekiss some new attraction. Then we got Fortress, good old Fortress, setting up hazards and spinning, and yeah, that's about it. And then we got Starmie, an offensive spinner. And yeah, I guess it's still, good old Starmie. It can hit relatively hard, has great coverage and natural cure ability, which is great for it. And it can spin. And now with not so many defogers around. In general, like, there are a bunch of defog users, but still, like, a lot of them are not good. I'll talk about that in a separate episode. I'm planning to do an episode on entry hazards, so I'll save that for later, for the episode whenever I will do that. I'm currently doing some research on entry hazards, and once I got enough gathered, I'll do an episode. But yeah, Starmie spinning and hitting hard with its awesome special move pull. Then we got Venusaur, and it kind of lost and gained something this generation, because in Gen 5 it was the primary Sun Sweeper coupled with Ninetales, but of course with the weather nerf, Ninetales is nowhere to be seen, so Venusaur can't really perform its job as a solid chlorophyll sweeper, especially since it kind of relied on the growth giving it +2 attack and special attack in the sun. And now it doesn't have that support. But now it did gain a Mega Evolution, but it's a defensive Mega that, you know, does have Thick Fat, which is kind of useful for it. And does have Giga Drain and Synthesis and Lead Seed to get some recovery, but, you know, having a wall without, you know, reliable recovery still kind of blows. So, and without leftovers too, so that's kind of an issue that we got with the Mega Venusaur, really. But, you know, it's still a solid Pokemon, and you can definitely at least counter Breloom, and it can still be a nuisance with all the support moves and sleep powders, lead seeds, and all sorts of that stuff. So it's a really good Pokemon, but it definitely lost a lot in this generation with the weather nerf. Then we got Tentacruel, another Pokemon that kind of lost a lot because it was a really annoying wall to deal with in the rain, and with the Rain Dish ability and Protect and Sob and Toxic and Rabbit spinning away the hazards and Scalding in the rain, doing a bunch of damage. But now it doesn't have the rain support anymore. It's still a really good spinner, but it's not as good as it was in the past. Then we got Mawile, Mega Mawile, and a really dangerous Pokemon. Most likely gonna get at least suspected in the future. That thing just hits like a truck. Although, like, the speed and the HP are the main problems with Mega Mawile. So if we compare it to Mega Kangaskhan, that is relatively fast, really bulky, has high HP too, then we got Mawile, which is really slow. But Mawile still relies on that Sucker Punch, much like Mega Kangaskhan. But Mega Kangaskhan has easier time getting past some certain Pokemon because it still does have solid base 100 speed, as opposed to like what 50 does Mawile have in Mega Mawile. But it's still like really slow, so that's the main problem. But it's still like, it has the highest attack of all Pokemon pretty much. 105 attack coupled with pure power or huge power. Which one does it get? It's the same thing, so it doesn't matter. So 105 attack doubled, and then you can still boost it with Sword Stance. Even without Sword Stance, this thing hits like a truck. And once you get Sword Stance up, if you make a wrong prediction against Mawile, you are certainly going to lose the game. It is just so freaking powerful. It doesn't really care about resistances. It will 2-hit KO pretty much the entire metagame after a Sword Stance. And that is what makes it dangerous. Really dangerous, and why it's used. We shall see if that thing is gonna still get suspected, or I don't think it's gonna get quick banned, but I would at least think that at one point you could imagine this thing getting suspected. Because yeah, kinda destroys everything. Then we got Sylveon, a specially defensive fairy type. And yeah, not really much to say about Sylveon. You know, it's a fairy type, and it's an evolution. It has solid stats, especially defensive. It can do some damage with its really good. I think it's like 101, or is it more? The special attack it has, but it's definitely a solid special attack, so it can dish out damage. It can wish support your team, and it's a fairy type wall. So evolutions in general are really useful, and Sylveon is no different, and it can do wish passing too. So that's pretty cool. Then we got Galvantula, sticky web. That's why it's used. Yes. Then we got Hydreigon. Hydreigon kind of lost a lot in this generation, unfortunately, because it's now 4 times weak to fairies. And also, like, what made Hydreigon really dangerous in last generation was the fact that it was practically uncounterable, because it could go mixed, and that is what basically meant is that it was an uncounterable Pokemon. But now it's not that easy to go mixed, because the easiest way to go mixed is like 3 special attacks and then Outrage. But then you have fairies, so fairies are immune to your Dragon Stab. And you know, something like does it get EQ? I think it gets EQ. Like, doesn't, but basically anything that's not stab doesn't really do much to the fairies anyway. So the fairies just really hurt Hydreigon. But outside of those things, Hydreigon is still a really difficult Pokemon to switch into. It has great coverage moves, and that's why it's still used. And but who knows what's going to happen after the Pokemon Bank gets released. I haven't really checked how much Hydreigon was used this month in the Pokemon Bank OU. But, you know, kind of lost in this generation, but still a really difficult Pokemon to switch into. That's why it's still being used. Then we got good old Blissey, and, you know, it's Blissey, it's walling stuff, and, well, right now it cannot wish support, because it will have only access to it from the Pokemon Bank, once that gets released. But certainly, Blissey is one of the best special walls still. That's why it's being used, but potentially could be higher, and probably will be after it gets access to Wish. We shall see. We shall see. By the way, speaking of chances, where's Chansey? And she and C? I don't know. But I guess Blissey, Big Sister, is right now used more. Who knows what's going to happen this gen? Because last generation it was really bouncing back and forth between Blissey and Chansey with the Eviolite shenanigans. But Blissey can definitely defend herself better than Chansey can. Because Chansey is usually, the only move you can run on it is Seismic Toss. And Blissey has the option to run at least some coverage moves. With its actually quite decent special attack. Quite good. Let's say quite good. Let's just say good. It's between good and decent. Okay, let's put it like that. Then we got Florges. And it's kind of struggling with usage between Sylveon, Florges, because they're kind of doing the same thing, especially defensive supporters that also have access to Calm Mind. They could potentially do some sweeping, but it's the speed that is really holding down their sweeping potential still. And yeah, just overall two really similar Pokemon, which is kind of interesting. Why did Game Freak? And then there's also the Aromatisse, which has already kind of lost the war, I think, because, you know, these are just kind of overall better. Aromatisse, I still say, is better for the doubles. But anyways, we move on. Then we got Diggersby, and yeah, well, it's another huge power user. Or which one does it get? Pure power or huge power? I think it's huge power again. But ground normal type, unique typing. It can kind of check Aegislash. That's definitely a good attribute. But it can hit hard, and it has, I think it's, is it 78 speed? So you can still slap a Scarf on it. So it has options to go like Scarfed and Banded, and I guess Life Orb would be an option. I guess you could do like sub 3 attacks. It's a Pokemon that does 4 switches, being the powerhouse that it is. And I think it has pretty good HP too. HP stats too. But ground normal is kind of interesting coverage. But I don't know, like, what does it get for other coverage moves? Hopefully in the future, though, it will get some elemental punches. I think that would be really great addition to Diggersby's coverage moves. But still, at the moment, it's a great wall breaker with huge power and choice band. So that's it, really. Another option over Azumarill. And I'm pretty sure this thing would be used more than Azumarill if it just wasn't for the fairy typing, but it got the fairy typing, so there is that. And we move on. Then we got Vaporeon. Still kind of struggling down here in the kind of bottom of the OU. But it's still a solid, sturdy, bulky water type that can wish past your team. And it can be definitely a great team player. And especially now with Politoed out of the picture, pretty much, you know, Vaporeon could be a really solid. If you're looking for a bulky water for your team, Vaporeon might be your pick, especially with the supporting that it can do for your team. And it can also retaliate. You could run specs on it, definitely, most certainly. It does have some at least decent coverage moves. Ice Beam and Hydro Pump, and I guess then you would have to rely on a Hidden Power Grass or Electric or something like that. But still, it does hit relatively hard. And great support again. Yeah, and then we got Malamar. That's the interesting contrary Pokemon. That's why people are using it. Alright, I think I can move on with the Malamar. I really get caught up with some certain Pokemon again, but I try my best to move as fast as I can. But still I'm doing a really sloppy job. I just tend to have lots of things to say. But Jolteon, Yeah, it's a fast electric type. I think the speed is what is still gaining some attraction for the good old Jolteon right here. It kind of lost Thunder because it cannot use it as it could in the past with the range support, so that's kind of a problem for it. But still, like, HO expects Jolteon with T-Bolt, Volt Switch, HP Ice, and some other coverage move. What do you want to slap in there? Shadow Ball, most definitely, especially with the Steel types getting nerfed. That's even a better option than it was in the past. So Jolteon still has something going for it, but it's definitely a fast electric type. 130 speed is definitely enough to gain some usage. Then we got Scolipede, one of the old Pokemon that gained probably the most in this generation, besides something like Azumarill and all the obvious Mega Evolutions. But besides the Pokemon that didn't get Mega Evolutions, Scolipede is one of the top Pokemon that gained a lot because it has speed boost in this generation coupled with Baton Pass. It had Baton Pass in the past, but now it has speed boost. And that is definitely a great asset for it. It doesn't have as great as coverage moves as good old Blaziken has, but it can still support your team with the Baton Pass. Something that, well, Blaziken can do that I think in this generation too. Yeah, it can Baton Pass now because of the new mechanics, so I don't know what I'm saying. But now Blaziken gone, and Scolipede having access to Speed Boost and Source Dance and Baton Pass, it's one of the solid Baton Passers, one of the best Baton Passers on the metagame. And I've been actually trying it out on a Baton Pass team, although I honestly don't think Baton Pass teams are that good. I really have a hard time getting past like Aegislash because it has the Sacred Sword going through the boosts and everything, and you know it has great defensive typing that is really difficult to bypass with something like Stored Power too. But you know, when it comes to Baton Passing, Scolipede a really great Pokemon, and also it can, if you want, you can run Spike support on it, so that's definitely an option. Then we got Pinsir. Mega Pinsir, that's why people are using it. Aerialate is a really cool ability, turning normal type moves into flying type ones. You can run moves like Return and Quick Attack with Stab, and also gaining an additional 1.3 times the boost besides the 1.5 from the Stab, because that's how the Aerialate works. It gives you 1.3 times the boost and also the Stab boost. So Quick Attack has priority and it's really powerful, and then you can also just run Return because Mega Pinsir is kind of fast on its own. But priority is always appreciated, and Mega Pinsir can do that with Quick Attack, so that's pretty interesting. Yeah, Mega Pinsir is a cool kid. And then we got Blastoise. That thing also got quite a buff with the Mega Evolution, and also it has all those, it has Aura Sphere now and Dark Pulse, so great coverage right there for the Mega Blastoise or Blastoise, and you know it can also be a spinner for your team. But I guess you know Starmie and Tentacruel are still kind of eating some of its usage, because you know if you're looking for a fast spin supporter, you got Starmie in the water section. If you're looking for a water type that has great coverage and it's fast and it can spin, there is Starmie. If you're looking for a bulky rapid spinner water type, then you got Tentacruel. Also has that useful poison typing, which is slightly better in this generation. You know, I guess that's something that I should have mentioned about Tentacruel earlier, but it has that poison typing over Blastoise that is only a pure water type. Of course, poison typing has its downsides, but overall it's a great defensive typing too. And then we got Sableye, and yeah, not really surprised to see it like right here because of all the Mega Kangaskhan's. I think that's probably the only reason why people are honestly using Sableye, because it's one of the best ways to really deal with it, because it's immune. It's immune to Power Up Punch and Return, two of the main moves that Mega Kangaskhan is running, although it needs to watch out for Scrappy, but with the max HP, max defense, it can switch in on it and go for the priority Will-O-Wisp, which is now boosted up to 85 accuracy. if I already didn't mention, probably have in the past, but I'll mention it again. You know, Will-O-Wisp is now slightly more accurate, so that's one of the best ways to really deal with it. But Sableye, it kind of just lost its main niche as a Pokemon with no weaknesses, now actually having a weakness, so that kind of sucks for it. But yeah, honestly, I think all the usage that Sableye has to come from walling Mega Kangaskhan, because otherwise, you know, Sableye was UU in the past generation. Honestly, like, much hasn't changed with Sableye, besides like more accurate Will-O-Wisp. But it didn't gain a Mega Evolution, it didn't really gain much of anything. But of course, it's a really useful support Pokemon, has the Prankster. Besides Prankster, Will-O-Wisp has Prankster Recover, so, you know, it's still as awesome as it was in the past, but it didn't really gain anything why it should be used, besides walling the ever so broken Mega Kangaskhan. So there is that. You can of course disagree and give me a reason why people should be using Sableye. So there we go. Of course you can disagree or agree with everything I've said. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Then we got Donphan, another spinner, and it's a, well, yeah, it does have Ice Shard, kind of useful priority, although it's like compared to Mamoswine, it's really weak. But it has its uses like over Mamoswine, I guess, because it's bulkier than Mamoswine. It doesn't have the ice typing, which is kind of defensively bad, and it can also spin. But yeah, basically Donphan shares a lot of attributes over a lot of attributes with Mamoswine. Both of them are ground types. Both of them have Ice Shard and Stealth Rocks. But then Donphan is a pure ground type, and so, you know, it doesn't have that kind of. Then again, Mamoswine, the offensive combination works better for Mamoswine. But then if you want to go defensive and if you want to have spin and you want to have a bulky ground type, Donphan may be your choice, and you still have the priority Ice Shard, which, you know, still can pick some dragons, even though it's kind of weak. But, you know, Donphan still spinning like it did in the past generation. Not much has really changed for good old Donphan, really. And we're actually now below, yeah, because below the OU limit. I guess I can still go through a few of these. But I believe if we were to make the cut for the OU tier, which is not happening, but if we were to do that, if we were to make the official cut for the OU tier, that would be 3.4%. So Sableye would actually be the last overused Pokemon at this moment. But of course we're not making a cut, but, you know, in theory. So that would be the last unofficial official OU Pokemon, if you will. And now let's go through the rest of the Pokemon that we got going on here. Good old Salamence, okay. Much has not really changed with Men's. It gained Moxie in the last generation, so it has those options to have either Intimidate or then just Moxie for the offensive sweepers. Although the thing with Intimidate is it's a really struggle between those abilities, because Intimidate kind of was initially the reason why Men's was able to force so many switches and get up a free DD. So if it doesn't have that, it's gonna have more difficult time, obviously, setting up as opposed to having Intimidate. So most of the time, like, Intimidate was the initial reason why Men's was able to set up so easily. But then again, in the long run, you know, the Moxie boost might be the way to go through your opponent's team with ease, but then finding that opportunity in the first place is slightly more difficult than with the Intimidate ability. So it's kind of a mixed bag what you want to do with Men's. But yeah, besides that, like, well, basically nothing has changed with Men's. It's still a dangerous Pokemon, can be running multiple sets, it can go mixed, it can go special, it has even Hydro Pump if you want to go like specs. Hydro Pump, Draco Meteor, Fire Blast, that's definitely a great start, definitely, but it has multiple options, which makes Salamence a great Pokemon. Then we got Blaziken, and it got kind of banned midway, so it's still kind of hanging in there, but Blaziken was a broken Pokemon, it got banned Ubers, goodbye, good riddance. Then we got Ditto, and Ditto, ever so useful, transforming around Imposter, And at least, like, I personally, the reason why I really liked using Ditto at the beginning of the metagame is because I have no idea what people are running. So at the same time, besides running the ever so useful Revenge Killer, Ultimate Revenge Killer Scarf Ditto with Imposter, I can be scouting my opponents and actually seeing what they are running because I have no idea. I have a hunch, but I don't know for sure, or at least I didn't at the beginning of the metagame. That's why on my very first team, I decided to put a Scarf Ditto on it. Because my main problem was kind of like, I want a Scarfer on this team, but I don't know what should I have. Well, if I don't know what I want to have, I might as well use everything, right? So Ditto can be everything, Ditto can be anything, and Ditto can scout teams for me. So that's a great thing for Ditto. But much has not changed. It will still probably kind of stay below the OU limit and still be kind of an NU Pokemon. But that's the great thing about Ditto. You can just use it on any tier. It's not really broken on, you know, any metagame per se, because, you know, it's you can't really come up with a solid strategy with Ditto, because it always depends on what your opponent brings, and that's what makes Ditto really unique and a fun Pokemon to use. That's why people are using it. But yeah, Ditto, the ultimate Scarfer Revenge Killer still, pretty much. Besides Mega Gengar, that also got banned. You know, it was kind of revenge killing links with Shadow Tag. Different topic, move on. We got Gardevoir, got Mega Evolution, Heliolisk, kind of an awesome new electric type. Kind of fast, hard hitting, but you know, there's Jolteon that has higher speed. That's why that thing is getting more usage, and then Heliolisk is still kind of down there, which is unfortunate. Like, one of the things is that Heliolisk, it does have Dry Skin and also has Surf, and all of its abilities have something to do with weather. But again, you know, weather got nerfed. It has the dry Skin, and then it has Sand Veil, and then it has the Solar Power, I do believe. Would be awesome to use a fast electric type on a Sun team with the Solar Power, but unfortunately gonna be extremely situational because of no perma weather no more. So that's an unfortunate thing for the Heliolisk. Random electric type Pokemon that has all these abilities to go with weather, but then as weather got nerfed, you know, it's not really that useful as you may have thought. But Dry Skin arguably the best ability for it, because grants immunity to water type moves, so it can actually just use that to heal it. Heal that Stealth Rock damage and heal that Life Orb recall potentially. But yeah, interesting Pokemon, but still kind of mediocre. But yeah, I'm certain it will find its place in the lower tiers. Then we got Heracross. That thing gained a Mega Evolution, so I guess people are using that thing. And it's definitely a dangerous wall breaker. 185 physical attack, and it has all those awesome moves that go well with the Skill Link ability, so that's pretty cool. Then we got Tyranitar, Rock and Dragon type. Unique combination. It does have Head Smash, and like I think it gets Outrage most certainly, and Dragon Claw if you don't want to lock yourself into Outrage. But that's right, solid coverage right there, coupled with Dragon Dance, and you can Scarf this thing even though it's not the fastest thing, which is I guess the main problem with Tyranitar. It's kind of like this mediocre fossil Pokemon that tends to be on a lot of the generation these days. But I think one of the, still compared to what we have had in the past generations, past couple of generations, one of the better fossil Pokemon. Certainly being a Dragon type, having Dragon Dance, and you can still Scarf on it, put a Scarf on it, and you can put a Choice Band on it, and it has that strong jaw too to go with its elemental fangs, which is kind of nice. And then if you just want to have Head Smash with no recoil, you got the Rock Head. I was gonna say Rock Smash for some random reason, but it has its options, but still kind of mediocre. They are like better dragons and everything and stuff like that. And then what do we got? Chandelure. That thing, it's kind of interesting that Chandelure lost the Shadow Tag ability in this generation, which it never officially got in the first place in Generation 5 when it was introduced and told that its Dream World ability or hidden ability is Shadow Tag, but now it's Infiltrator, which is still a great ability because it allows Chandelure to more efficiently revenge kill some random substituting Pokemon, so that's definitely optional. Although the Flash Fire is still gonna be a useful ability, but now you have the option to go with the Infiltrator and revenge kill some random Pokemon from behind a sub, so that's definitely an asset for it. But do you want to lose really useful Flash Fire over the somewhat of a situational potential revenge killing of something from behind the sub? You know, that's an option, but that's what you got. But still kind of interesting that Chandelure lost the Shadow Tag, and then they just gave it to Mega Gengar that has super high stats and everything. Because I guess, I don't know. I was just thinking, like, did they get rid of Shadow Tag because they realized that Chandelure would be really broken with it? But, you know, they just gave it to Mega Gengar. I guess the difference between Gengar and Chandelure is that Chandelure actually has a boosting move in form of Calm Mind. I think Mega Gengar would have been even more broken if you had something like Calm Mind, because you could just sub Calm Mind and then have like Focus Blast and Shadow Ball, and like that would have been horrible. But Gengar didn't have any boosting moves, which was honestly one of the only downsides to Mega Gengar, but still like enough to make it uber because of the support capabilities. But yeah, Chandelure did still lose its Shadow Tag, which it never got in the first place, but really hard hitting Special Sweeper, something you definitely need to watch out for, but still probably gonna be UU in this generation, especially because it will never have Shadow Tag. Boo-hoo. Then we got Reuniclus. Much has not really changed with this thing, and I don't know. It's a bulky Psychic type with reliable recovery, Magic Guard, and you got Calm Mind, great coverage moves, Shadow Ball, and Focus Blast, coupled with Stab, Psychic or Psyshock to go through physical walls, or I mean special walls. I mean, obviously, but much hasn't really changed with Reuniclus, but it's still a really interesting bulky Psychic type sweeper, bulky offensive sweeper. Yeah, let's put it like that. Yeah. But yeah, much hasn't changed. Then we got Metagross, which lost a lot in this generation with the Steel type nerf. Instead of having only 2 weaknesses, it now has 4 to also Dark and Ghost besides the Fire and Ground, and that really hurt Metagross. And it was kind of in the Generation 5 metagame, it was kind of dropping. It still managed to stay OU, but it just kept on dropping down because it was kind of just a mediocre Pokemon. It had that great defensive typing, and with its hard-hitting nature and being able to support your team with Stealth Rocks, it was still a really useful Pokemon in Gen 5. But now it has 2 extra weaknesses that really hurt it, and it's still kind of mediocre, so that's why it's down here. And then we got Politoed at number 60. And I think that's the weather nerf that definitely did it. Politoed will certainly have its uses, because if you try to run a rain team, you know, still the problem is with a lot of the Pokemon, the 4 move slot syndrome. It's really hard to slap Rain Dance in there. You want to have something else, so then you can run Politoed and have that rain support, but because it's no Permarain, it just kind of sucks for it. And now that I've gone through 60 Pokemon, I think I'll just stop, and I want to see, however, where Ninetales is. There we go, number 75. Poor Ninetales. And then we got a bunch of Pokemon here, but yeah, not really a point to go through them all, because I have already rambled for way too long. So with that, I will conclude this way too long episode, which is like, holy crap, over an hour again. When will I learn? Maybe next month. Still kind of wanted to talk about these Pokemon because everything is still kind of new, but may have been a bit of a repeat from the last episode. I try to redeem myself the next time. But those of you who actually did watch, thank you so much. And until next time with some sort of different topic, this is Spade signing out. Peace.